Okay, so let's have a look, see if we can't get this page looking something like this. So we're going to go one step at a time together. I hope you had a good go at it. This did have a few tricky elements to it, and it's not important that you got it perfect. I'm not saying this is perfect, but looking good like this. What's important is that you had a go at it, and you're able to maybe get them lined up like this, or you're able just to style so that when you hovered over them, the background changed. However far you got, well done. And I'm going to show you how to gradually get from having nothing to creating something like this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our links. If you might remember, what we want to do, we want to put this into a list. So we don't want to have it ordered like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go for an unordered list. You may remember with HTML, what we use is UL, that stands for unordered list. So then for each of those, we're going to create a list element. So I'm going to create 4 of those. Just copy and paste. So let's go for home, about, more, and contact. So, and let's just remove this header for now, just to make things simpler. Okay, fantastic. But now what we want to do, we want to make these into links. So we're going to use A for anchor as the tag, and then put this in the middle here. And actually what I'm going to do, just to make things easier, I'm just going to do the old copy and paste again. Just change these, about, more, and contact. Fantastic. So now what we have an unordered list, which is basically our navigation bar now. So it's looking okay. We want it to be ordered left to right. We don't want to have these bullet points. So these are some of the main things that we'll get started with. So if we go into our CSS file, which is currently, I prefer to have the CSS file on the right. So it's currently nothing's going on with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is try and get these ordered left to right. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is remove these annoying bullet points, and that's something we haven't done before. So we're basically just going to try and remove that decoration. So let's see if we can't use the power of search to see how we can do this. So we want to go for CSS, and then we want to go for unordered list, no style. Let's give that a try. So this one from W3 Schools looks good. I also just had a look here, and that seems very relevant. I need an unordered list without any bullets. So I'm actually going to go straight to this one on Stack Overflow. So yep, that looks like a good question. And if we scroll down, we'll see a solution. And 3,465 people have said that this is the useful answer. So they're saying in CSS, we want to style the unordered list style type as none. Okay, so let's give that a try. List style type, yep, it appears, so that's good. And then let's go for none and see what happens. So let's give it a try. Fantastic. Okay, now we're on our way. So the next thing we want to do is look at how we can make these go next to each other. So you may remember I was saying something about float before. Do you remember what float does? Well, let's have a think about what float does. It basically tells elements to go to the side of each other. So if, for example, we wanted something to go next to each other like this in order, so home being the first, about being the second, then we might want to try doing float left. So we're telling home to float furthest on the left, and then we want about to float on the left, but it'd come just after home, etc., etc. So that's what I'm going to do. I mean, some people may have tripped up when you're trying this. You may have thought to put float in here. Float left. As you can see, it doesn't really do much, and that's because you're telling the whole element of the unordered list to float left. What you want to be saying is that you want each of the singular list elements to float left. So that's looking good. We've now got them floating all next to each other. I mean, it's not looking fantastic, but we're definitely getting there, right? Next thing I want to do is just to remove the text decoration, which we did last time, the underlining, because that's just a bit annoying. So I'm just going to change that really quickly. You might remember I just put in text decoration for the link, and then I want no text decoration. Okay, it's looking better and better. So what we could look at now is having a bit of separation between these elements. So one thing we can do is just have some padding. And instead of having full padding, why don't we just have padding to the right, so that we separate each of them. Let's just go for 5 pixels. Fantastic, it's looking better and better now. It's not looking exactly like this, but we're getting there. So next, let's go for having a complete background color just for the navigation bar in general. So we want to have this on our unordered list. As you'll see, this may not go as we expect. So actually nothing's happening here at all. So what we actually need to do, this is a little trick, we use something called overflow, and we define it as hidden. As you can see, that's appearing nicely. Of course, it's not looking great at the moment because it's actually removed all of our listings, but we're definitely getting there. So let's bring our text back to life by adding, we need to give it a text color. So let's give it a color of, so we want to color the text here. So we use color, and then let's go for white. Okay, fantastic. So now you can see it's actually starting to look a bit more like an actual navigation bar. I'm going to give a bit more padding actually. So that's looking good. So the next thing we want to do, let's go for the background colors. So let's say when we're hovering, we want it to be a black background color. So do you remember from the lecture how we do that? We do A, colon, and then hover. There we go. We want to style that now, so when we hover over it, background color is black. So let's have a look. Okay, that's looking good. As you can see, it's looking a bit strange because the text is actually on the left-hand side. So what we can do is just what we've done before, often with our headers, is we can move it to the middle. So instead of just having it on the left, in our list items, we can do text align, just like we did with our H1s, and then, oops, have this centered. Excuse me, we want to have the text align in our link. And this is because when we were doing the padding earlier, we wanted to give a bit of space between each of the links, but we've just created padding on the right hand side. So let's even that out now. So instead of having 20 pixels on the right, let's have 10, and let's have 10 pixels on the left as well. So padding left, let's have 10 pixels there as well. So now that looks a bit better. And finally, what we want to do is something that I haven't shown you before, and that's have padding on the top and bottom as well. So what we might as well do, instead of having these different ones here, let's just go for 13 pixels for padding everywhere. So that's for the top, bottom, left and right. So that's looking better left to right, but for some reason it's not padding out top and bottom. And that's because one other trick we need to use is something called display and then block. When we run this now, you can see that it's nicely spaced out. So let's go over what we've done in this lecture today. So essentially we wanted our navigation bar to look similar to this. I think we've achieved that. We created an unordered list, and we made sure to remove the list style type to get rid of those bullet points. We then gave it a background color of blue, and we had to use a trick where we added overflow hidden. Then in order to make sure that the elements were next to each other like this, for the lists, each of the list elements we used float left. Then for the actual links, we removed the underlining by doing text decoration none. We added some padding, and that's to all the different sides, but in order for it to appear top and bottom, we had to use display block. And then we gave the text color white. Then finally, for hovering, we did the background color of black, which we did by putting A, hover. So if you're feeling comfortable with this, go on to the next lecture, but I do recommend that you give this one more try by yourself from scratch without looking at these notes. See if you can remember the different things we've done here. And then I'll see you in the next lecture.